Good morning, everyone. It's Craig Studnicky from RelatedISG and ISG presenting the Q1 update of our Miami report. We're now in our 12th year of publishing the Miami report, and I'm pleased to let you know that we are working on the 2021 Miami report, but we want to give you a little bit of a heads up of what happened at the conclusion of Q1, which was just a week and a half ago. We are dealing with a very dynamic and an unprecedented market, and all of you know that. Every one of you are extremely busy taking new listings, closing sales, dealing with appraisers. Believe me, I know, because I work with all of you every single day. But what you may not know is what the actual numbers look like, how everything is truly unfolding this year so far. So at the conclusion of this brief 10-minute presentation, I think you'll all be able to forecast for yourselves where this year is heading for each and every one of you, as well as RelatedISG and ISG. So with that said, let's begin. We are dealing with an unprecedented real estate market, and we're going to start with single-family homes. I've been pounding that drum probably for the better part of 6 to 9 months, and the reason I have is because I always believe that as the inventory of single-family homes gets tighter and tighter, condos would start becoming more in favor. I believe that because it just made common sense. And in fact, the numbers are panning out exactly like that. Look at this. Single-family homes in South Florida, as defined by Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, have hit 6 new records in just 5 months. Look at this. In mid-November, there were around 9,800 single-family houses for sale. And by the way, this is every single price point because I get asked that question a lot. Every single price point, from 50,000 to 150 million. Every single price point is included in that November number of 9,801. By the way, back at the end of Q3 last year, that number was north of 10,000 houses. And even then, even in mid-November, the amount of sales taking place with single-family houses was outpacing new listings that were coming into MLS. Well, that trend has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. By mid-December, that number was at 8,500. By mid-January, 8,000. All the way to the end of March, 6,149. I'll bet anybody that's watching this program that today that number is below 6,000. We are, by the mid-January, we hit a 20-year low. By mid-February, we're at a 25-year low. And then by mid-March, end of March, we're at all-time lows. And even when you express mid-February 21 as a 25-year low, it was probably at an all-time low because, we never had the amount of population that we have now in South Florida. So when you take the amount of single-family homes for sale and factor in the population, the growing population of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County, this was more than likely not a 25-year low in mid-February. It was probably at all-time low then. Now, here's what the result of all of this is. As a result of the tight supply, prices are up. You know that. In fact, it's very hard for appraisers to keep up with the constant changing market value of single-family houses. There is nothing in the tea leaves, nothing in anyone's opinion that's going to cause single-family home sales activity to slow down. If anything, what we're seeing is more interest in condos because the amount of supply is obviously very, very tight with houses. And consequently, the prices are very, very high. Leading the charge with most of these sales are, in fact, millennials that are starting their lives. I guess like I did some over 30 years ago when I started my family. And that market continues to lead the charge because the market from the Northeast, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, I'll say Illinois, the market from California, they seem to be gravitating now more towards condos. Seem to be. But anyway, these are the numbers of the houses. Unprecedented, historic, record-setting. Years from now, we'll be talking about the records that were established in 2021. But nevertheless, these are the numbers that are unfolding this year. Now, as I said, that kind of activity with houses has got to now spill over into condos in a very meaningful and positive way for condo sales. And sure enough, the numbers are proving out. By Q3 of 2020, the black bar, 54% of all real estate sales out of MLS were single-family homes. 46% were condos. And by the way, that was a major correction from last summer, where we saw close to 80%. 4 out of 5 transactions were all houses. Very few were condos. And why? People were afraid to go into condos. It was hard for condominium associations weren't letting realtors like us even go into the buildings to show. It was for residents only. People were deathly afraid, appropriately so, of COVID-19. But obviously things really loosened up by Q3. And it came out to kind of a normalizing relationship by the end of Q4. I think I've told you all before, way before 2020, every time there were 2 real estate transactions in South Florida, one was a house and one was a condo. It got a little disturbed in 2020 for obvious reasons, but by the end of Q4, it kind of normalized. But look what's happened at the end of Q1 of this year. Condos now are leading the charge. This is not because single-family homes aren't popular. This is because there's not many houses for people to buy. And as a result now, condos are the soup du jour. It's what a lot of your customers are asking for. Single-family houses are unquestionably in the seller's market category, but condos are still in the buyer's market because there's still a lot of inventory out there in MLS, particularly new condos that were built in this past cycle, which began in 2012. Beautiful buildings with modern amenities and high ceilings, beautiful kitchens and baths, very popularly priced, and very much matching most of the demand that is currently looking at South Florida real estate. And that is to say, these are people that want to live in South Florida right now. And you know that. They want to take advantage of these low mortgage rates. They want to take advantage of the incredible climate that we have. And if you're a resident of New Jersey, New York, California, Illinois, you're escaping those incredibly high taxes. And at the moment, there doesn't seem much of a change in the federal tax laws. So I suspect that market will continue, as well as that demand to enjoy South Florida in the here and now. Here's what condo activity looks like. By Q3 of last year, there were 22,000 condos for sale, like houses, every single price point, from 50,000 up to, well, say 50 million, because that's about as high as condos go in South Florida. By Q4, it dropped a lot to just under 20,000. But look where we are today. Today, you're at a 10-year low. We haven't had that little bit of condo resale inventory in MLS since 2011. And by the way, that was the birth of the new cycle, when real estate developers that build condos, Related Group, Property Markets Group, Swire Properties, when they saw that condo inventory had hit that kind of level in 2011, they started building condos and they started the next cycle. Well, believe me, the seeds have been planted for the next cycle to begin. And this is one reason. It doesn't mean that that condos are a seller's market. It's still a great buying opportunity, contrasting with single-family houses. But I do suspect that 17,249 number will probably drop by the end of April to something close to 15,000, moving us to maybe a 15-year low. Remember this old rule of thumb. This is something that I've learned in selling real estate now for over 40 years. When 10% or less of supply is on the market, you're in a seller's market. When 10% or more is in the market, you've got a buyer's market. So what this basically means is this equals condos, this equals single-family houses, and I don't think there's anybody that's willing to debate that. Here's a quick snapshot of the various neighborhoods when it comes to condos to kind of illustrate the point. So here we are all the way in Q1 of 2021. In the Brickell market, you're down to 11% of all of the condos that were built since 2012 in this past cycle are for sale. Now, why is that such an interesting number? Well, I'll tell you why. Because at the end of Q4, it was just under 13%. At the end of Q3 last year, you were just over 14%. You see how that's dropping? Brickell Avenue, by the end of Q2 this year, will be in a seller's market. So any of your customers that want to buy a condo in the Brickell neighborhood, in my opinion, you got 3 months to make the best buy of your life, because based on these selling trends, it's inevitable that by the end of Q2, Brickell slides into a seller's market. The downtown corridor, which would be downtown Miami, Edgewater, Wynwood, it's also sliding in the exact same direction. You've got about In downtown corridor, I'm going to give you closer to 6 months by the end of Q3 before you tip into a buyer's market for condos, unlike Brickell. The beaches is close to 13% of all of that inventory is currently for sale. What does that really mean? It's because mostly of Sunny Isles had a lot of inventory on the market, particularly not so long ago. By the end of Q3, it was 16%. Heck, you were at 17% by the end of Q3 of last year. Anyway, the point is it also is dropping, but it gives a great buying opportunity for all of the beaches, particularly Sunny Isles, for a while. Sunny Isles may remain a buyer's market throughout the rest of this year. It may. All of the beaches, for that matter. But it's just through the end of this year. By 2022, the opportunity will be over in the sense that the buyers will no longer have the leverage that they have today. Look at Coconut Grove and Fort Lauderdale. You're already in a seller's market. You've lost the advantage. Doesn't mean that those markets aren't popular. It doesn't mean people aren't going to still want to buy condos in those particular neighborhoods. It does mean that developers are looking at both of those neighborhoods now, because especially those that are probably watching this presentation, because just like in 2011, they now know that those are the markets that are ready for new construction, more than any other submarket here in South Florida. This gives you an idea of the kind of resale activity that we're having this year. Last year, 871 condos were sold out of MLS, Dade, Broward, Palm Beach County. Already through Q1, we've sold 431. So all of this basically means that half of the sales that we wrote all of last year took place in just the first 3 months of this year. We are, and clearly, even as bad as last year was because of COVID-19, we sold more condos last year than we did in the previous year. And that's because condos at the end of the year became safer places for people to buy. This basically just shows the activity is really starting to percolate inside condos. Because of all of this information, a new cycle is beginning. And it's partly also because of this. From the previous cycle, 19,400 condos got developed starting in 2012. Today, there's 1,000 of them that remain. That's it. 95% of all of this are sold, 600 of which are standing inventory, which undoubtedly will all be sold by the end of this year. Developers are watching this, and developers are starting. And this is another reason why they're starting. This is what we previously referred to as supply shock. Here it is graphically to show you what we mean by that. This year, these are the projects that will be delivered from Coconut Grove all the way up to Fort Lauderdale. Elisace, Grove Harbor, 57 Ocean, Monaco Yacht and Club and Residences, the estates of Aquilina South Tower, 2000 Ocean in Hallandale, and the Four Seasons in Fort Lauderdale. Next year, Aston Martin in downtown Miami, Missoni in Edgewater, the estates of Aquilina North Tower in Sunny Isles Beach, and Aurora in Sunny Isles Beach as well. They will be delivered. 4 new buildings. By 2023, 1 Mr. C in Coconut Grove. By 2024, 1 Solamar on Pompano Beach. In 2025, 1 Una Residences in Brickell. This is supply shock. This is why the amount of inventory that currently exists in MLS with condos, you got a client that wants to make a good buy with a condo, buy it now. There's nothing in the pipeline of any substance to match current and forecasted population demand on condos in the next few years. This by itself is being looked at by developers, and this by itself might be the strongest magnet that's causing developers to want to start to build again. Here's another way of illustrating the point. In the first decade of this century, the 2000s, from 2002 right through 2008, almost 60,000 condos got developed from Coconut Grove up to Fort Lauderdale. Now, arguably, that's too many, but that's how many nevertheless got built and got sold. In this past decade, from 2011 to 2020, we just showed you the number. I'll repeat it again. Just under 20,000 got developed. We are now in 2021. We have less than 2,000 condos under construction from Coconut Grove to Fort Lauderdale. Less than 2,000. That's 10% of what we developed in the previous decade. Nothing compared to what we developed in the 2000s. It's another way of illustrating the point of supply shock. Demand is not going to stop, and I'll get into that in 1 second. If demand just remains constant, you're going to have an intersection very, very soon where demand is going to exceed supply. And you're going to see prices of condos behave a lot like single-family homes, which puts a tremendous amount of urgency on all of us to get this point across to our prospective buyers to take advantage of the buying opportunity that condos represent right now in 2021. These are the 3 of the new projects that have been announced. I'll go from right to left. That's how I read magazines, from the back to the front. Solimar in Pompano Beach, being developed by Related. They expect to break ground in the next few months. Followed by the Waldorf Astoria Property Markets Group. They are building a 100-story building, the tallest residential condo south of Manhattan in downtown Miami. Exciting architecture, exciting development. Part hotel, part residences. Invite you all to get a presentation of this iconic project. And then finally, Baccarat Towers. Related is planning to launch sales in just a couple of weeks at the 444 Brickell site. High-end, large apartments on the river, looking straight up government cut. Spectacular. So these are the 3. These are the 3 that are starting the new cycle. 3 of many more that we need, many more that undoubtedly will be coming. Population, listen, you all know, we all talk about New York. How long will that sustain itself? That seems to really be the question that we're always talking about inside RelatedISG. So I'm going to answer it the way the Wall Street Journal had tackled it. This is an article that came out just a month or so ago. And this is written by a woman named Peggy Noonan, who was a speechwriter for former President Ronald Reagan. And this is a column that she wrote. In New York, we're witnessing for the first time in a century and a half the collapse of the commuter model. You had to be in the magic metropolis if you were going to be on top of your profession. But now you don't have to be in the city. You can work from anywhere. This goes to remote working. This is why bedroom count seems to matter now more than even the size of the units. 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, because that extra bedroom is being used as your in-home office. And whether you're living in New York or New Jersey or Connecticut or Massachusetts, Chicago, Illinois, or somewhere in California, you could own a condo in Florida, work remotely, and it's all working. This quote by Peggy Noonan by itself changed the paradigm of how New Yorkers are working. She goes on to say, New York needs to hold on to its wealthy. The top 5% of New York pay 62% of the state income taxes. This is an issue because on the desk of Governor Cuomo as we speak is a new tax law which proposes to raise the city taxes in the city of New York, the state taxes in the state of New York, making New York one of the most expensive state to live in, surpassing even California. So I share all this information with you because so many of you are asking me, Craig, how long can we expect the New York market to stay as good as it is? Well, articles like this, tax proposals that sit on President Cuomo's desk as we speak, strongly suggest you can expect this for a while. This in-migration from different parts of the U.S. to South Florida will last at least through this year, more than likely through 2022. What happens after that, who knows? No one's crystal ball is particularly clear. But you take those facts combined with this fact. Look at some of these financial firms that have already relocated here to South Florida. Most of you heard of Carl Icahn. He made his move in 2019. You've heard of Goldman Sachs and you've heard of Blackstone making their moves. And here's some other companies that have joined these firms and opening up major headquarters, not the main headquarters, but major headquarters here in South Florida. This is just part of it. Others are already here and more are coming. This we've showed you before. It's worth repeating. This shows New York, Connecticut, New Jersey, Illinois, and Massachusetts. The number one state that when people are leaving those states, the number one state they choose is the Sunshine State. They're coming to Florida. They're coming to Miami. They're going to Orlando. They're going to Tampa. They're going to Naples. They're coming to Florida. And the tax returns, together with U.S. Postal Service change of address forms, confirm it over and over again. This, as we conclude this presentation, shows a dramatic shift in the buying demographics of residential real estate in South Florida, whether it's a house or a condo, it really doesn't matter. 10 years ago, 50% of every sale that was made in South Florida came from somewhere in Latin America. 21% US. It's completely reversed itself, in part because of tax laws. COVID acted as a bit of an accelerator, but also in part because the US dollar remains stubbornly high around the world, making our assets kind of very expensive for Latin American buyers. But it says something about South Florida. It always seems to be attractive to some market in the world. And what's the old expression? The only thing that's constant in life is change. And things have changed inside the United States. And now South Florida has become more popular than ever with Americans. And the result of all of this is this graphic. So yeah, expect more of it. Just get more acquainted with the reasons why. And you'll understand why even companies like RelatedISG, and ISG, from a social media perspective, are getting rather aggressive in the states I just mentioned, because we don't see any end to this for quite some time. This is an article that came out a week ago. New York has seen how much dough it can squeeze out of millionaires' paychecks in New York. This is not necessarily good. I'm going to focus in on these mayoral candidates in the city of New York. Andrew Yang, Ray McGuire. They're anxious that this new proposed tax hike could lead to the 1970s corporate exodus from New York. It could. If that bill gets signed in New York and New York becomes the most expensive state in the U.S. to live in, then expect more of this immigration to Florida for sure. For sure. There's no state income tax in Florida. I can assure you there never will be in your professional lifetimes. There won't be. No governor would ever propose that. We don't need it. Florida, like Texas, we're considered now rather wealthy states in comparison to other states in the country. We just don't need it. And it's going to always be one of the factors that makes South Florida so incredibly attractive. Now, through the end of this year, probably through all of 2022. So here are your takeaways, guys. Continued declining inventory, both with developers as well as resales. We're still dealing with very low mortgage rates. No, they're not as low as they were in January, but they're still just a little over 3%. I'll take that all day long, and I know so will you. Continued population growth. People keep coming. None of us ever thought we'd ever get the kind of demand that we're getting from California. And we are. I expect more of it because, like New York, it's a very expensive state to live in. And the folks that are coming here are moving here permanently, setting up shop, developing businesses. And the ripple effect from that over time is yet to be measured because we don't know what the impact is, but it's going to be substantial and very good for we realtors that hold active real estate licenses in the state of Florida. And finally, our old supply shock. We've hit a wall. There's not enough supply out there to meet demand. We're seeing evidence of that already with the price of single-family homes. And I am here to tell you guys that in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, depending on the neighborhood, condos are going to slip from a buyer's opportunity to a seller's opportunity. And watch the prices of condos pop because demand is not going to stop. People keep coming here, and we need developers to start building again. Hats off to Related and PMG for starting the cycle. We need others to jump in as well. That's the update on Q1, guys. We are very busy putting together the 2021 Miami report, which is going to be very different in terms of tone and substance than previous reports because of what's been happening with the residential market this year. So I look forward to presenting that to all of you in the next couple of months. In the meantime, happy trails. Keep at it. We don't get markets like this every day. Good luck out there, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.